let one more person in. And so I just want to welcome everybody to today's presentation. It's part 2 of the a series that Maddy's doing. She had done one graphic design 101 back, I guess, a couple of weeks ago. So this is the part 2. So just a couple of housekeeping things. If you could just put your mics on mute just as the presentation is going on, then feel free. You can unmute yourself to ask any questions. And if you feel more comfortable using the text chat, for sure you could text there, and I'll let Maddy know when there's some questions in the chat. Sorry, just letting a couple more people in. I think that's everything. So I just want to welcome again everybody to the presentation, and welcome back Maddy. I was about to say Maddy Grant, but then I went back to Maddy Daigle of Pens. Yeah. Yeah, either one. Sorry. So we appreciate you coming back today, and I know there was such great feedback from the first presentation. Everybody's looking forward to today's. So welcome back, Maddy.
Thank you so much. I appreciate everybody who's back for the second part. And yeah, I do believe there you have the video of the first part. We're getting a question.
Yes, for sure. I could actually drop it in the chat too. Well, drop the first one.
Perfect. I also do offer on my website, I have a 3-hour version. Normally we go 3.5 hours, people stay after, where there's more time to actually teach and really walk you through everything. Unfortunately, it is a little condensed, but if anyone's interested, I do offer that. And I could always kind of change it up if there's a lot of people from Paro who want to learn completely new things that don't want to reinvent the wheel. So just so that you know, I only do it every once in a while if I get enough people that sign up. So yeah, if you're interested, please feel free to go to my website at, let's put it in the chat. And then, actually, I'll put it in the chat at the end. I also did add my Facebook review page. I'm starting to populate that a little bit more now. If you enjoyed either last week's or this week, I would absolutely appreciate you giving me a review on Facebook. It would be really awesome. So without further ado, let's get on to this. All right, so it's not going to be too overly complicated. There's going to be stuff that we mentioned in the past session, but most of it is going to be pretty standalone, so you should be okay. All right, let us play the slideshow. All right, so we're on part 102. This is a more practical session. We're actually going to be going into Canva and learning how to do some basic graphics design. I won't really have time to troubleshoot, unfortunately, because of the short period of time. So you can always watch, and obviously there's going to be a recording, so you can rewatch if there's anything that you missed. So again, I'm Maddy. I'm a graphics designer and business owner. I own Pens and Paws Design, which I just do on the side. I do freelance graphics design. I also own Mental Mark Planners, which is a mental health focused planner company, like physical paper planners. And I also work for the government of Canada as a contractor for past 10 years doing design and development. So first and foremost, why would we use Canva for design? Actually, I'm gonna close this. Why would we use Canva for design? It's a great design tool for small business owners because it includes ready-to-use templates. So you can always just use the provided Canva templates. It's easy and intuitive to use. You don't need advanced knowledge of any graphics design principles. It includes a variety of different assets and resources that are pre-created for you. Canva allows you to also import your own assets. So for example, if you have a logo or if you have anything else that your designers have created for you, you can import them into Canva. Canva is free. There is a free version up to a point. There's a lot that you can do with the free version. I generally use the free version and will occasionally pay for a month if I want more advanced features. And finally, it can be used on multiple devices. You can have it on your phone, you can have the desktop app, and you can also have the web browser. Whoop. So how do we sign up for Canva? So most of this is actually going to be me going back and forth from the presentation because I'll be walking you through how to do some of this stuff. So if we go into the Canva website, hopefully some of you have already signed up for Canva from the last presentation, but this is the Canva website right here. So when you go to canva.com and you've signed up, this is what you'll see. If you have not signed up, and I'm actually going to just sign out so I can show you. I'm going to go to canva.com. You'll have this little sign up button in the corner right here. You can click it and either sign up with your Google or Facebook or sign up with an email address. You'll normally have to authenticate with your email. So pretty easy peasy. Once you've signed up, you can just log in. I'm going to log in. And this is what you'll see in the Canva main page. So you'll see that I actually use it as a graphics designer. I use it mainly for my mental health planner business. I do a lot of posts with Canva, designed posts. So this bar on the side will allow you to see all of the different designs that you have. So I have a variety of different ones. Brand Kit and Content Planner, unfortunately, are paid features. I'm paying right now. So you can kind of ignore that. You can also put things into folders and see what you've actually trashed before. So you can go back and take a look at anything that you've previously deleted. There's versioning, all that fun stuff. All right, let's get back to the presentation. Canva can be accessed a variety of different ways. You can access it just simply through the website, which is what we're going to be doing today. You do have mobile and tablet applications for both iPhone and Android, or you can download the desktop app. If you want to use the more advanced features and have it be a little bit less fiddly, the website or desktop applications are best. The mobile apps work great, but for more quick designs where you don't mind navigating with your fingers. So what can you design with Canva? Canva has a large amount of pre-created templates and sizes that you can use to create pretty much whatever you can think of. However, just because Canva offers it doesn't necessarily mean you should use it. It's really important to check the licensing agreement, and we're going to be talking about that in a moment. So you can see here that Canva has Instagram posts. You know, you can update your story, do posters. They even have like, you can create t-shirts and stuff within Canva. So what do I mean by licensing and copyright? Again, I am not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. I'm just reiterating what Canva actually has on their licensing webpage, which I always recommend if you're ever doing any sort of design or even grabbing assets like photos. I've talked about that in my previous presentation, that you always make sure to check the licensing and copyright. So Canva, you can use Canva in your design for personal and commercial use. You can also use them for marketing or in social media or to sell merchandise. However, you cannot sell, redistribute, or take credit for unaltered media provided through Canva. And that word unaltered is difficult. So what does that exactly mean? If you take an asset from Canva, a little picture that they've created for you, and put it in a greater design, is that unaltered? That's where I don't have legal advice. Generally you can, but I wouldn't do it for commercial use. So for marketing, that kind of stuff, that would be perfectly fine. You also can't trademark designs with stock media. So they actually say on their website, be careful using it in logos. Canva uses assets that are created by people that you use in your design. So although your overall design is unique, that stock media that you use isn't. That's where it's a little fiddly, especially when it comes to trademarking. So you can have the license for something, you can pay for an image or a font, but if you're using it in something that you're trademarking, trademark has to be entirely unique. That is why oftentimes people will hire designers to do logos because they can really create it completely from scratch. So again, Canva has more information on trademarks and logos. They actually do specify that logo templates are for inspiration. And I wanted to mention that because I did get a question last time about creating logos with Canva. I would say it's okay if you're not planning to trademark it. Again, this is not legal advice. It's a toughie. It's a really tough situation. Technically you can, but even it is kind of a weird situation. So I would actually contact Canva and ask that question if you are planning on using a logo that you've created in Canva. And it's really confusing because they actually do have a logo creator section, and then they have this in their copyright and licensing. So that's why it's always important to read licensing and copyright when you're using anything. It's really boring and really dry, but what can you do?
Maddy, can
yes?
I interrupt you for just a question?
Of course.
Okay, sorry. If you have permission to use a logo that has the TM or the R in brackets, can you incorporate it into designs and then publish them?
Depends on what you mean. So if you've had a freelance designer create a logo from scratch for you, and then they've given you the copyright permissions, usually graphics designers will have a contract outlining what you can and can't do, especially for freelance, what you can and can't do with the assets that they create. You might have to pay extra to actually have the copyright for that item, because graphics designers, freelance graphics designers, do still retain, again, I'm not a lawyer, they do still retain copyright of what they provide you. And you can usually use it in other designs. I would say you can. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but modifying that specific logo is where it's a little bit trickier. So I would talk to your graphics designer and really get that information. But yeah, it's a really tricky sort of situation, but you can usually incorporate them into designs for sure. But it's changing that logo that's a little bit more complicated. Does that answer the question a little bit? Doesn't apply though if you hire a designer. If you actually have a designer that is in your team and you hire them and they're an official employee, the company has the copyright, not the designer. So it's kind of wonky.
Okay, thanks. Ellie, is that okay? Yeah, I think so. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
No worries. Yep, just keep them coming, keep the questions coming. It's confusing even for me as a designer. Like, again, I'm not a lawyer. I actually, one of my best friends is. So I'm always like, is this okay? Can I do this? So what is safe to make in Canva? Safe is kind of a wonky word. Again, contact Canva if you have any questions, but generally, social media posts are totally fine. Marketing materials are totally fine. I use it all the time for marketing and for social media. Facebook cover photos, even pamphlets, posters, instructional materials, invitations, banners. Sometimes you can even use it on packaging. And there are some, like if you really read the licensing, if you want to sell anything that has Canva assets on there, they do talk a little bit about that. I think the asset that you use has to be a certain size. Again, contact Canva to really get that sort of more legal information, but just be wary of how you use it. And this is with anything that has assets that you use. So if you download a font, or if you download an icon or whatever, it's important to be careful on how you use it and read that information. So Canva does have a paid version. I didn't bother doing the enterprise version. The free version will do most of what you need. There's a lot of templates, lots of different designs. You can even collaborate, and you have 5 gigabytes of storage. The paid version, the main reason I will sometimes just pay for it for a month is mainly they do have more assets that you can use. You also do get something called a brand kit where you can kind of specify all your colors, which I talked about last presentation about having a color scheme. You can also remove backgrounds. And most importantly for me is resizing. So if you have a post that you've created for Instagram, for example, and it's specific size, if you pay, you can resize it to be like a Facebook cover photo and use the same assets without having to design from scratch. So sometimes I'll pay for it pretty much exclusively to resize a bunch of things, and then next month I won't pay for it anymore. All right, so creating a Canva project. This is a big tool. I won't be able to show you everything. We've got 45 minutes, but I'll show you what's really key and what I can kind of fit into an hour. Unfortunately, I won't be able to like go back and forth. Normally I have exercises, get you to do them, give you advice, all that kind of stuff, but we are kind of strapped for time. This is essentially what we're going to be talking about. So choosing dimensions, file settings, using templates and backgrounds, elements and images, text, uploading files, grouping, positioning, deleting, and more. This I actually had to remove. Ignore that. I will not be talking about your brand kit because that is a paid service. I didn't realize that at first.
Maddy, how much does it cost per month? That was one question.
Oh, I think it's about $14 or something per month. I'm currently paying for it this month and it expires tomorrow. So what I will do actually is just pay for it for a month, do a bunch of things that I have to upload or do a bunch of projects that I have to finish. And if you resize something after you stop paying for it, it will retain that resized size. It's not like you're going to lose that, but you will lose stuff like access to paid assets and elements that you use, which, yeah. So I think it's about $14 a month. Do we have any more questions in the chat? Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
$13 per month. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ellie.
All right. So this is what we're going to be creating today. Again, normally I have everybody creating this along with me and provide you assets and stuff, but we might not get this finished. This is a design that I just created for fun. I created the logo. And if we look back, or if we think back to what I chatted about last time we chatted, I do have a color scheme right here. I have some fonts that I used. This font actually I wasn't able to get in Canva, so I used Buffalo instead. Just ignore that. And does anyone remember from last, probably not, but does anyone remember what kind of color scheme this would be? So there was monochromatic, analogous, complementary, triadic, I think. Does anyone remember? Actually, it is not monochromatic. It is analogous. Yes. Yes, Sam. So it is an analogous color scheme because they're right next to each other on the color wheel. It's not green, this green color in different shades. It's actually a green color and a blue color that's kind of next to it on the color wheel. Very common color scheme that you can use. All right. So first and foremost, when we get into Canva, we have to choose our dimensions for the file that we're creating. I chatted about this a little bit in the last presentation, but it's important to pay attention to the size and the pixel size specifically. Canva works in pixels. What this means is that pixels are usually for raster images. Those are those images that are made up of pixels, whereas a vector image is made up of curves. Raster images will lose quality if you go from small to big, whereas vector images, which are made up of curves, you can really resize them as much as you can. So it's a good idea to size up if you keep the same dimensions. And what I mean by that is that, look at this Instagram post. So this is actually, I think, bigger than Instagram actually shows it, but the same dimensions would be half of this. So I'm really bad at math. Whatever half of 1080 is, and whatever half of 1080 is still the same dimension. It's just smaller. You could also double this. That is the same dimension. So if you double it and you design, you can always shrink it to be smaller when you need it, but you can't make it larger. Take into consideration also, the larger the image, the larger the file, the more, the bigger the file size. So something really interesting about Canva is notice that Facebook size for cover images is actually not correct in Canva. So Canva's Facebook cover image is 1640 by 920. Facebook, according to their official website, displays it at 820 by 312 on computers and 640 by 360 on smartphones. So generally, so that you can have it displayed on both smartphones and computers, you would make sure that you take the largest of the two values. So you would do 820 wide and 360 tall. You can double that. So if we double that, the size is 1640 by 720. And you'll notice that that is off in Canva itself. So sizing can change when social media websites update. So get your sizing from their official websites. Another thing to notice, and we chatted about this a little bit earlier, we're going to be creating a Facebook cover photo in this session. And Facebook cover photos have a safe zone. So basically, certain sections are only visible on desktop, while others are visible on mobile. It's important to put the most important content in this safe zone in the middle, so that no matter how someone is viewing your Facebook cover photo, they can see the important content. All right, so let's go into Canva and actually create a Facebook cover photo. Oop. Oh, and this is just a little bit about sizing up. I've already talked about that.
Maddy, is there one color scheme that's better than another?
Really, no. Monochromatic color schemes are kind of the easiest to implement. If you have one hue, one color, for example, green, and you just change either the brightness, make it darker, and keep your color scheme within that, that's the kind of simplest to use. They're all great. For my planner, for example, I'll show you. I use complementary color scheme. So I use both monochromatic and also a complementary color scheme. That's just what I've chosen to do. And there are, depending on your business, and I've talked about this in the previous slides or the previous session, depending on your business, you might want to choose a specific color to evoke a certain emotion. All right, where was I? Okay, so when we're in Canva, we can click Create a Design. And these are all the different types of designs that I've told you that they have. Because Facebook cover photos are incorrect, we are actually going to create a custom size. And I've already created one down here. It does remember what your sizes were. So I'm going to click this one and open it up. So in the free version, again, you can't resize existing designs, but you can if you pay. So in the paid version, I can actually go resize, and I can resize everything to an Instagram post or a presentation or whatever. You cannot do that in the free version. All right. Okay, so the next thing we're going to take a look at is, I'm just going to leave this up. Next thing we're going to look at is the file settings. So we're going to look at rulers and guides first. to figure out how to set that safe zone in our design. Sorry if I'm going back and forth or going a little bit fast. I think we're actually, okay, I think I have time to get through this. So when you go to File, you have a variety of different options for that file itself. So we can rename, so for example, Facebook cover photo, we can rename our file. We can show rulers. So rulers are really handy if you're trying to like place something in a specific space. And then guides are really handy as well. We're actually going to use guides to simulate that safe zone that we talked about earlier. So remember that I doubled the dimensions of the Facebook cover photo. So that safe zone will also have to be doubled. So we can see right here, the safe zone is 90 pixels wide on either side. So I'm going to double it to 180 pixels. Same thing with the 24 pixels tall. So if I click on the ruler and drag, I can see exactly how many pixels up at the top right there it is away from the edge. So I'm going to drag it and put it at 180 right there. I'm going to drag from the top and put it at 48 because that's double. Whatever, 49 is good enough. 48 because that's double 24. Then I will actually have to minus 48 from 720, which I've done in advance because I'm not good at math, which is 672. Again, I'm just going quickly. I don't want to run out of time. Oop. And then I'm going to do it right here. And this is 1460 from the right. So as long as you design from, whoops, right here, 672. So as long as you design in this area right here and everything out here isn't like important content, it's going to fit perfectly on your Facebook cover photo. All right. Does anyone have any questions at this point?
There's a couple of questions in the chat. Would you say to create a file that is bigger dimensions is better than to adjust, compress, and make it smaller?
And if you do need to make it smaller, how or what tool do you use to do that? Does the web version have more options in the app? Okay, so there's a couple questions. Would you say to create a file that is bigger? Yeah, generally, well, it depends. You don't want to go too big. Like you don't want to go crazy, crazy large. But it does depend on how you're using it. If you're only using that specific file for an Instagram post, for example, and that is purely all that you're using it for, just use the regular dimensions. That is fine. If you think you're ever going to have to use that file that you've created larger, in a larger context, then definitely design it larger because you can always shrink. You cannot increase the size. And you actually can just shrink it. Well, unfortunately, you have to pay to do it in Canva. I have graphics design apps that you can use. You can always just Google too, like changing the size of my file. I'll have to think on that one and see if there's a simpler way. If I can get back to you, if you don't mind sending me an email, I can get back to you and give you some options. I'll actually send you. If anyone has questions, I'm putting my email. Feel free, and I don't get to answer them, feel free to send me an email. Does the web version have more options in the app? It's generally just easier to use. I think it does have a few more different options. It's not that different. It's mainly, do you want to use your finger to try and like, you know, move things that are very pixel precise? Maybe not. I will use my phone to do Instagram posts, honestly. I don't really care that it's pixel precise. It depends on what you're using it for.
Okay, Maddy, I have one last question here. Sometimes I do a campaign and use the same asset in various social media, email campaigns, webpage. Is there any of these considered commercial, or commercial refers to print like flyers?
Commercial, I think, usually refers to if you're going to be using it and making a profit off of. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but that should be fine, honestly. What you're describing right there, that's totally fine. Use the assets. According to Canva's licensing agreement, you can use it for stuff like marketing. You can use it, again, you can technically use it for commercial use. It's just they have some stipulations on what that means. Again, I would contact Canva, but I think what you're describing is perfectly fine. The big thing is if you're trademarking something or if you're specifically making a profit off of it. So if you're using, for example, for my spreads, for my planner, I completely create everything from scratch. I don't use Canva at all. I don't use assets except for fonts, but I create everything from scratch just so that I don't have to deal with any of that. All right, whoops, come on. So let's go into templates. I might have to jump a little quicker. So Canva has a variety of different templates. It's just up at the top right here. You can use pre-made templates to help you construct a design. The templates do depend on the size that you choose in Canva. So if you chose like an Instagram post, you're gonna see different templates for that sizing. You can change most components in a template. So if I choose this one, for example, I can change the fonts, and I'll show you how to do all that after. I can change the background color, all that fun stuff. So it's just a good way to get started again. Backgrounds are pretty simple. So essentially, to change a background, you can either click on the background itself and click on this little background color section right here and click on whatever font you want. If you have the specific font code, which again, if you have a specific color palette, as I said in the previous session, you should have the hexadecimal code for your colors in your color scheme. You can just type it in right there. I think this, yeah, so that's black, and press enter, and then you will have your color there. And it'll actually save all the colors that you use in the specific document. Unfortunately, it's with the paid version. The paid version will allow you to set your brand colors so you don't have to re-enter them every time. That's why I have my brand colors right here. Unfortunately, with the free version, you can't do that. So you're just gonna have to re-enter them for every new design that you create. So that's backgrounds. Next, we're gonna get into adding elements. So I'm actually gonna delete this whole thing, and how I'm deleting is just dragging and then clicking delete. I'm gonna go back to a white background, and you can actually add Canva elements and you can add Canva images right from these two options right here. So placing an element is super simple. You can actually search for whatever you're looking for. They have tons of different elements, even in the free version. So I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to try and use everything that's free for this example. So I'm just going to take a square, and once you click on it, you have the option to move the square around. Some elements allow you to actually change the width and the height. Other elements don't. So in this example, I can change both the width and the height. If I were to choose, for example, this guy right here, I don't have that option, that little option that allows me to change the width and the height. I can only change the overall size. And honestly, the only way to know is to click on the element and see what options you have. So this one, as you can see, I can only change the overall size. All right, so we've got our element. With elements, you can change the color of the individual element, most of them, for most elements. So if I were to pick something like this guy, it's a little more complicated, it's animated, you can't actually change the color. But if I were to pick something like, maybe not that one, give me one that I can change color. Aha! So if I were to pick this one right here, you actually have the options to change the individual colors. You can also crop elements. which basically you crop it and then it'll look like that, or you can flip elements. And again, it does depend on the element. Some won't allow you to do certain things. Photos are very similar. So you can add a photo. I'm going to add a photo of a kitty cat. I have 3 cats. I am a giant cat lady, so all my examples have cats. So with images, you can add effects and filters rather than changing individual colors. This is, again, the difference between those raster images and those vector images. The images, the photos, are all raster. They're all made up of pixels. Eventually, if you blow them up big enough, they are going to pixelate. And you can't change individual sections. These are examples of what raster images actually look like. They're photos. Photos are generally raster. Whereas the elements, most of these elements are vector images, and they are a lot more blocky. You can really see the difference between a vector and raster image. But raster images, you do have that freedom to individually change all the different colors and sections of it. And graphics designers can actually go in, not with Canva, but with more professional graphics design software. Actually, I have one up right here. I created this little logo just for fun. I can actually go in and individually change little tiny curves of that vector image, which you cannot do with raster. But you can, however, add effects. You can add filters, and you can adjust. For example, I can make it brighter. I can add more contrast, the typical stuff that you would do with photos. Are there any questions up until this point?
No questions, just Ellie said she uses a free version, and pretty much every time I set up a page in any given document. It takes time, but then it helps for consistency.
Yep, and you can also duplicate. So if you have a bunch of different, so what I do is, actually, I'll show you. I will just, for example, make a copy of this and then just change what I. Oh, someone.
Oh, good. Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. All right, so let's keep going. The next thing I'm going to be talking to you about is uploading your own files, like your logo or other designs used for your business. So I do have a little bit of information for this guy. Oh, using text. Sorry, using text is the next thing that I'm going to chat about. So text works very similarly to elements and photos. You just click on the text that you want. You can either choose to use a provided Canva font combination. They have quite a few different font combinations, or you can choose your own text. And then much like any other editor, you can change the actual font. Again, some are free, provided for free. Some are provided if you pay. For example, these 2 are paid. And again, like Word or any other editor, you can do anything you really want. You can also add effects. For example, I can add a shadow right here and specify the offset, the direction, how transparent it is, and change the color. Again, it will save all the colors that you used in that design, which is pretty fun. So that is essentially fonts. Next, we're going to chat about uploading files. So like your logo or other designs that you use for your business. All right. Canva has a variety of different file types that you can and can't upload. So you can upload most of the different image types that you would have, like JPEG or PNG or SVG, which, if you recall back from my first session, is actually a vector image. You can actually upload vector images, but there are restrictions. For example, I will sometimes upload, I pay for a iconography service called the Noun Project that I absolutely love. I pay like $40 a year, and I get access to a bunch of different SVG icons that I can use. So I can upload those icons because I paid for it and I have licensing to Canva, and Canva will automatically let me just choose the color right inside Canva. Again, you can't manipulate it like I would. For example, that hand I showed you was actually an icon that I got from the Noun project. Again, don't do this in a real logo. This was just an example logo. But I got an icon from the Noun project and just kind of manipulated it and played around with it. Canva also does say that you can only upload content that you own or are licensed to use. So don't just go on Google, find an image and upload it onto Canva. You're not allowed to do that. All right, so let's show you uploading. So uploading is right here. It's this little button. And I've already actually uploaded the fake logo that I created, but it's really simple. You just click upload media. And if you have actually your Facebook or your Instagram connected, you can upload straight from there. But normally I will just click device and upload from my computer. And if you're on an iPhone, you can usually upload directly from your photos. So once you've uploaded your file, it will show right here. You can also move it to a folder if you have a variety of different folders set up. So example, all your logos, I don't have folders right now. But yeah, you can just create a new folder here and then move all your assets to a specific one. So I've uploaded this guy right here. It is a PNG. If you recall from the last session, I saved this as a PNG because I want that transparent background. Again, for logos, if you work with a graphics designer, they should be providing you with a PNG with a transparent background. Now I can put it wherever I want, even if it's a dark background, although it doesn't look nice. But it's really, really handy. So this was actually saved as a raster image. Just to show you, I saved this super small. I saved it at 100 by 100 pixels. So you can see how pixelated it is. Whereas this guy will get pixelated if I blow it up big enough, but I'm not gonna be blowing it up too large. It's most important to make sure things are gargantuan when working with print, or because that's where pixels really, really show up. But yeah. All right, so that is uploading. Next, we're going to chat about some of the global things that you can do with elements. So this section right here is positioning. So either relative to other assets or the canvas itself. You can copy styles. You can set the transparency. You can even add links. You can lock a layer, duplicate a layer, or delete. Let's chat a little bit about layering. So you can see if I move this little cherry in front of the cat, the cherry is layered in front of the cat. This is, even if you use PowerPoint, it's a very similar concept. You can change the layer, the position, by going here and saying backwards. And now it's behind the cat. Likewise, I can position this in front. So making sure that you play around with your layers and have them in the proper location is great. It's kind of annoying. One thing that's super annoying about Canva that I wish they would fix is that if you have something in front of something else, you can't really access the thing that's behind it unless you go backwards. Then you can click on this, position it, and then you have to go back and fix your layering. It's quite annoying, but it's a minor inconvenience. So in terms of positioning, you can also position elements relative to the canvas itself, so this entire design. So I can click on the cat and position, can align to the center of the page and then to the middle of the page. You can also do this relative to other elements. So I can, for example, position these elements both to the absolute left. Very useful when creating designs because it's very important in graphics design that everything is well positioned. The next thing that you can do to make your life a little bit easier is, oh, wait, we're going to talk about transparency. So you can click here, change the transparency. You can also add links. Sorry if I'm going a little bit fast. I have a decent amount to get through. You can also set links, and you can lock layers. So this is really useful if you want to access something and that's behind something else. It's a little finicky to do so, but if a layer is locked, you can sometimes access what's behind it. Again, it's a little finicky, but essentially a locked layer means you can't move whatever you have locked. Let's unlock this guy. You can also group layers together, or group elements together. So if I click on 2 elements, I can group them, or more, 2 or more elements, and then I can move them around together. I can still edit the individual element by clicking on it, but then I can move them, and then you can ungroup. So a lot of the font combinations that you will get are pre-grouped together. Whoops. Oops, oops, oops. And then you can just ungroup them if you want to separate the font combinations, as an example. What else? Duplicating, pretty self-explanatory. You can duplicate a layer, and finally, you can delete a layer. In more professional graphics design tools, you can actually see all of the layers. So for this right here, I can actually click on an individual layer and modify and change that so that I always know what I'm working on. Unfortunately, with something like Canva, you don't get to see that. You kind of have to try and play around. But again, it's super good for simple stuff. All right, so we're actually going to chat about sharing and exporting. So now that you've done your design, it looks good, you can download the file. This is where those file types that I talked about in the first session are so important. There are a variety of different file types. You can actually download it as an SVG, which is, again, a vector image, when you pay. However, elements that are not vector will remain raster. So if you open it up in a more advanced graphics design tool, sometimes I'll download it as an SVG, so then I can go in and play around a little bit more with each individual element. For you, I wouldn't really worry about that. Mainly, you're going to be saving it probably as PNG or JPEG. And then you can also choose the size that you save it as. I think, I haven't actually tried this out very much because I usually save it in the size that I need. For vector images, you don't really have to worry about how large the size will be. For the photos, I think you might have to worry a little bit about that, only because if you blow it up too big, it might get pixelated. But I have noticed that Canvas photos can get pretty darn big before getting pixelated. So that means they've saved it large, super, super large, so that you can kind of resize it. Aside from going larger, a ridiculous amount larger, you can resize it and it shouldn't have too many issues. Again, these are all paid, transparent backgrounds. Unfortunately, you can't save a logo, for example. Again, I wouldn't recommend doing a logo, but let me see. Can't save like a design for a cup, for example, and you want everything outside of it to be transparent. You can't save it with a transparent background unless you pay. Other than that, you can share links. Also, with the paid version, you actually do have an option to words. Oh, I don't think it's here. I think my paid might have gone away. You actually have the option to schedule your posts. So if we go back to the home in Canva, you do have a content planner. So you can actually create posts and schedule them to post at a specific time. But again, that is the paid version. Paid version also, you get this brand kit, which you can put your brand colors and your brand fonts and your brand logo. Other than that, that is essentially Canva in a nutshell. Does anyone have any questions? I'm sorry that this was so quick. I still have 10 minutes left. So if you want me to show you anything specific, please let me know in the chat.
There was a couple of questions in the chat. Vanessa said she's played around with Canva previously, but due to her lack of knowledge of graphic design, I think I will need to either do a graphics course to be able to do all these wonderful things or for her business, or hire someone to do it for me. LA said, when uploading a complicated Canva project directly to a social media account, do you have the option to create an original or an original post or first comment, or is it just best to save to your device and then post on your own?
Honestly, I'm not 100% sure, only because I don't use Canva. I use another tool to schedule my posts. Let's actually see. Why not? So if I were to do Instagram, so you'd have to set it up. I'm not 100% sure, honestly. Again, it's the paid version. I don't really use it, but you can definitely take a look. I struggle when saving my projects on Canva. It doesn't always save it. Yeah, sometimes Canva can have some issues. Maybe try downloading the desktop app. Hopefully that will help you out with that. You can also manually save. If you go here and click File, Save, that might help you a little bit more, because Canva does autosave. But sometimes it might forget to autosave. So I like to make sure that I'm saving it. Yeah, for sure, Helen. Like, there are sometimes some issues definitely with Canva. What you can do is, worst case scenario, you can always download your file. And then if something happens, yeah, I still always download for sure. If something happens, then you can always re-upload it. I did it on the phone because of sizing. I saved it and then posted. Yeah. What do you use to schedule your post? Oh my gosh. I use, I forget the name. Oh my gosh, I forgot the name. It's on my iPad. I kind of exclusively do work stuff on my iPad. I'll actually just check. I use, Buffer. Buffer is what I use. I do think it actually lets me do first comment hashtags, but that is what I do. I have noticed that you can schedule posts on Facebook. Is it the same technology? I think so. I think it's kind of an integration between both. So you do have to connect your Facebook account or your Instagram account in order for it to work. So it probably is kind of a communication between the same technologies, or you could use Facebook. The reason I use something like Buffer is that you can post it to Instagram and Facebook and Twitter all at the same time, which is super handy if you don't want to have to like post. But although Instagram is owned by Facebook, so I believe Facebook will also post to Instagram for you. Other than that, some other things that you can do is add audio. Audio is paid, unfortunately. Videos, I believe, are paid. Canva's quite simple, quite straightforward. But yeah, if you want some more graphics design related information, my first course, or the first part of the course, talks a little bit more about using color and using fonts and how to find a good color scheme, how to determine what fonts to use to show a proper visual hierarchy. Normally I recommend, if you're gonna, whatever you want to have the most focus, have your font be bigger, all that sort of stuff. All right.
Yeah, if there's any other questions, please feel free. We have We have about 5 minutes left, so if anybody has any questions, please feel free. You can unmute yourself or chat.
And if you do want, I'll actually put the little course that I have. Here is my 3.5 hour course on graphics design. If you're curious to take a look. I don't have it scheduled right now. Again, I schedule it once I have interest, but you can sign up and let me know that you're interested. It's $60 a person. And again, if I get most people from this sort of thing, then I can kind of tailor it to you guys. What's the latest trend in colors and elements? Honestly, it really depends on your business. And in the first session, I talk a little bit about making sure you base your color scheme on your business itself. Understand your business. If you're having a natural holistic business, you're not going to want to use red. You'll probably want to stick to greens, probably more of an analogous or monochromatic color scheme, not to like have like too jarring of a visual. Complementary colors, for example, can be a little bit more jarring. So if you use complementary colors, you might want to use them sparingly. It really depends. If you're more a professional business, for example, something like law, you'll want to pick certain fonts. You'll probably want to use serif instead of sans serif to show your professionalism. It is kind of it's an art, not a science. But yeah, if you want more information on that sort of stuff, that is in the first part of the presentation. All right, I'm going to re-add my review page. If you guys would be willing to send me a review, I would absolutely love that, either for the first session, the second session, or both, if you were here for both. And thank you, LA. Thank you, Sam. I appreciate you guys coming back, and I appreciate the new folks, and hopefully you'll take a look at the first presentation or recommend my series to some other people. That would be amazing.
Maddy, can you put the check out my 3-hour course creating that link? Can you put it in the chat?
Yes, yeah, I did put it.
Oh,
so,
you did? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'll put it again though.
Oh no, it's okay. I just went back. I just found it. It's okay. Thanks.
Oh,
I
perfect.
just found it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Maddy. I really appreciate you coming in and talking.
Thank you, Maddy.
Yeah, both of these weeks. We really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I will have a recording later on of this presentation. So if anybody would like a recording of this one or missed the first one, send me an email to makingadifference@pero.ca and I could get those recordings out to you. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you so much. Maddy, really appreciate it. And I guess everybody have a great rest of the day and talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.